something hidden in the book of Revelation has puzzled believers for centuries. A mystery that sits quietly in a list of names, yet it unlocks the secrets of God's end-time plan. 12 tribes, 12 sealed, 12 written in heaven's book of destiny. But one name is gone, Dan, vanished from the roll call of the redeemed, removed from the seal of God's end-time priesthood. But why? Was it punishment, a prophetic warning, or something far deeper? A symbol of purification, preparation, and ultimately restoration? Today, we're going to uncover the answers that scripture, history, and prophecy reveal. And by the end of this video, you'll understand not only the mystery of Dan, but the pattern that God is working in the sealing of his end-time priesthood today. Every omission in scripture is intentional, and every absence carries a message from heaven. Dan's disappearance is not a printing error. It's a signal. It's a divine commentary. This missing tribe reveals the battle between compromise and purity, idolatry and worship, rebellion and obedience. And it shows how God purifies his priesthood for the final battle. And when you see this connection to the 144,000, you'll understand why God's church today cannot afford compromise any longer. Revelation 7 lists the tribes to be sealed: Judah, Reuben, Gad, but Dan is missing. Instead, Manasseh appears. And why replace one with another? Scholars remind us that John's lists are never random. Their theology and pattern and prophecy encoded in this order. When God changes a name, it carries a specific meaning. And when he removes a name, it carries a warning. In Genesis 49:17, Jacob speaks prophetically. Dan shall be a serpent by the way, an adder by the path. This was both a blessing and a caution, and history confirms it. Jeroboam set up golden calves in Bethel, and Dan, the tribe that should have judged Israel, instead seduced it into idolatry. Dan became a gateway for compromise. So, when John lists the sealed tribes, Dan is absent. The priesthood that tolerates compromise can't be sealed for the end-time mission. Purity is required, holiness is demanded, and only the faithful can bear the mark of God. But here's where it gets even deeper. Dan's removal is not simply judgment. It's a prophetic design. One New Testament scholar calls Revelation 7 Israel reimagined through the Lamb. It's the church, both Jew and Gentile together, transformed into a royal priesthood. The 144,000 are not only ethnic Israel. They are Israel purified in the spirit. A royal priesthood that's prepared for the final battle and sealed to serve, sealed to worship, and sealed to stand before God. Each tribe carries symbolic weight. Judah is the worshiper and king. Reuben is the repentant one. Gad is the warrior. Asher is the overcomer. And then there's no Dan. Before the final sealing, God removes the serpent, the compromise, the idolatry, the corruption from amongst his people. The 144,000 must be pure without any mixture. Another scholar notes that in the unseen spiritual realm, idolatry is more than ritual. It's alignment with fallen powers. The 144,000 are the new council, purified, covenant aligned, and spirit led. Dan's absence mirrors the purification God is performing in his people. His removal is a warning and a promise. Ezekiel 48 shows the tribes restored in the millennial kingdom. And the first name listed, it's actually Dan. The tribe that's removed in Revelation is first in its restoration. God's judgment was not the final word. Transformation and restoration were. Dan's story shows us the pattern for God's end-time priesthood: warning, purification, sealing, and ultimately restoration. Dan disappears from Revelation, but God's story doesn't end there. Absence in God's book often signals a pause, a mystery in the spiritual realm waiting to be revealed. Ezekiel 48 lists the tribes restored in the millennial kingdom. And Dan appears first. The one removed for compromise now leads the restored inheritance. Another scholar explains that John's omission and Ezekiel's restoration are actually connected. Judgment is never the final word. Removal is for refinement. Their purification precedes their restoration. In the unseen realm, Dan's absence signifies the removal of idolatry and corruption, and his return is the symbol of triumph. The defiled becomes holy, and the compromised is redeemed. The lost is then restored. The 144,000 illustrate this same principle. They're purified, sealed, spirit-led priests and warriors, prepared to serve in the final spiritual battle. Dan's absence and restoration become a blueprint then for all believers called to this end-time priesthood. Picture God's throne and angels surrounding him. He opens the book of life, and the names of all God's people, the faithful ones, are written. The compromised, however, are absent from the book. The serpent is removed, and yet redemption awaits. Every believer called to priesthood must face this question. What in my heart is unclean? What must be removed before I can serve God fully? The 144,000 are not merely warriors. They're priests. Priests who worship in spirit and in truth, not by tradition or birthright. Their sealing is divine from God alone. It's selective and purposeful. Revelation 7 is a covenantal register. It reveals who is set apart for God's end-time mission. Each tribe, each omission, each replacement carries weight. Dan's absence warns the church today. Compromise, idolatry, divided allegiance, or pride disqualifies from the end-time priesthood. The sealing of God's people marks God's protection, empowerment, and preparation. This priesthood is not inherited by lineage. It's earned by purification, faithfulness, and obedience to God. Dan's removal becomes the spiritual mirror. God is removing all that defiles his people before the final harvest. Imagine standing before God in heaven. God's people are there, and yet some who thought they were ready are not. This tension is very real, and this warning is urgent. Purity, holiness, and spirit-led worship are non-negotiable. This is not just about an ancient prophecy. It's a present-day call to every believer. Every believer is called to be in God's priesthood, so we must examine our hearts and our worship. Dan's absence is both a warning and a prophetic lesson. God purifies before he empowers. So what does this mean for you today? 1, examine your worship. Is it truly in spirit and in truth? 2, examine your heart. Are there areas of pride, idolatry, or compromise? 3, commit to obedience, faithfulness, and covenant alignment with God. The missing tribe of Dan reminds us that the priesthood of the end times is not automatic. It's earned through purification, and it's sealed through faithfulness, and it's restored through obedience to God. Dan's removal is a warning, and Dan's restoration is a promise. The 144,000 show us the pattern: warning, purification, sealing, and restoration. The mystery of Dan is not just an ancient prophecy. It's a revelation for us today. God removes to purify. He seals to protect. He restores to glorify. The 144,000 are his example. The missing tribe of Dan is the pattern. So we must watch and prepare, because Jesus is coming soon, and God's priesthood is being refined. And those who endure will be a part of his perfected, purified, and restored army. Watch this video next, and I'll see you there.